Decent for We the People News. This one's a little bit about the qualified immunity thing. So listen to this.
So votes on two police reform bills on Capitol Hill, with the House Democrats passing their bill and the left blocking the GOP version in the Senate. Can a bipartisan compromise be found? Joining me now, Tennessee Senator Marsha Blackburn. Good evening, Senator. You were in the Senate, or at least you knew what was going on in the Senate at the time that Tim Scott got up and gave a very heartfelt speech about the police reform bill that he had submitted and which the Democrats refused to even discuss. What was it like that day?
I was on the floor with Senator Scott and some of my colleagues, and if your viewers have not pulled up that floor speech, they should do it. Tim Scott has dedicated most of his adult life to working on racial equality, and he has worked on this legislation for 5 years. You had Senator Durbin call it token and later have to apologize. You have the comments that were so offending that were made by several of the Democrat senators, even some of their leadership. And they did not want Tim to get the credit for helping to solve this. What they want to do, Judge, is to go in and take the Democrat House bill, and that bill would abolish the police. And here is how they would do it. They would do away with qualified immunity, which means that criminals could sue policemen for arresting them. And
Okay, let's pause there for a second. Qualified immunity, you get rid of that, they would pay more attention to the Constitution. And as drug dealers go after them, they would still have to go by the Constitution in order to find out about this. You know, you would have to get a grand jury of the Constitution. The problem we had, most of these officers are confused about laws in the Constitution, and I'm just going to say on record, there is a bunch of laws that's unconstitutional. All right? And they keep on serving their masters and keep breaking the Constitution and upholding the laws, which our freedom is destroyed. A lot of this here, y'all, it's all color racist thing. You know, it affects us all. It affected me, and I'm a white guy, and all that kind of stuff. So, no, the qualified immunity needs to go away. It wasn't intended for police officers and judges and all that. The only thing that qualified immunity was intended for is for we the people not to sue the states to pay us back for borrowing money from us. That was the whole ordeal right there. That was it. And so we the people did not sue the states. And the Supreme Court ruled that it was unconstitutional, and yet they still passed the 11th Amendment, which made it basically legal. All due to Georgia didn't want to pay its bill to a person that loaned them money during the war. And I believe this was 1796 when the 11th Amendment was passed on that. And because they said they was a sovereign state. A sovereign, period, don't give you immunity about paying your bills. So that's number one. The 11th Amendment was 100% unconstitutional anyway, to deny someone, or a country, a state, or a person, or a government official to pay their bills. You owe someone, you to pay it, and if you don't pay it, you caused harm on that person, our government, our country. So that's my issue on that. Defund the police, maybe. I think they got too much military deal. And this thing about $50,000. Most police actually make more than $50,000. when they're in there X amount of time. It's just like anything else. If you've been in there a year or two, you're going to make less money. But, you know, police goes up to 200,000, 250,000, 100,000. I think more the average basis of officers getting paid is between 80 and up. You know, some of them's down to 60. And so I can understand the insurance thing. But if that's the career they decide to take, well, then maybe they ought to go ahead and get the insurance. That just seems kind of makes sense to me. That's the reason why cities have insurance. That's the reason why townships have insurance. And so when you sue this town for the police officer's mistake, you know, this drug dealer's lawsuit, well, number one, we'll have to find out if the police did their jobs correctly and constitutionally. That is the main issue there. That's what they signed the oath for. So they need to uphold the oath and do these things constitutionally. Now, that being said, in 1969, the Supreme Court ruled that it's legal for all officers to lie. That includes FBI, CIA, police officers, police dogs, all them. That right there, on face value, makes them immoral. Why would you trust liars? Once a liar, always a liar. And government officials doing all these things, they lie. So why are we sitting here listening to liars? So once we get the foot in the door, we need to stick to our guns and proceed forward. But that's my whole ordeal on this qualified immunity. I think that's the main way to go, and I'm on the Democratic side on that 120%. I think they may have a certain class immunity when it goes into high class lawsuits. Well, I mean, they have a certain type of immunity within the guidelines of they operating in good behavior, which means by the Constitution of the United States of America, or the Constitution of the states. Not at all by law. 90% laws are actually unconstitutional. So we need to get that straight. Well, it's for this or it's for that. Don't really matter. If you got to ask permission from the government, you are not free. The Constitution and the Declaration of Independence is for free people. So once you have to ask for government for permission, you are not free. You are a slave to the government. If you got to beg, I mean, I'm going to throw this up. Maybe I shouldn't, but I will throw it up. Back in the slavery day, black men was allowed to bear arms if they had permission from the slave owner. Alright? And they go into town and do whatever they need to do and come back to the plantation. And I'm just saying this in general just to give you guys an idea. What in the world is the difference now? Okay? I got to sign a piece of paper, get investigated, ask permission for me to be able to buy a weapon, which means guns. Okay? I just actually did the exact same thing that slaves had to do with them. Now, I'm totally against slavery. I just wanted to bring it up. If you guys don't think you're slaves, that right there kind of explains to you. And for you black people out there listening to this, you know, it's not meant to be any type of harm with y'all, or but it needs to be let known that you've been released from slavery, but yet every time you ask the government for permission to get anything, you're back in slavery. The only difference is We all, we the people, all of us, are in slavery to the government when you had to ask permission. The only time the government comes after you is when you cause harm to others, which means property, their house, and all that, or harm to their bodies. And it can go so far as mental if it gets really up there. Anyway, that's what I am totally against on the 11th Amendment mainly, but the qualified immunity needs to go. Especially, y'all, for judges. They're the ones that sentences you. And they're the ones lying to you about you going in court and be a constitutional court when it's an MLT contract court. So yeah, I have a big problem with the court system and with the police. I think they all enter to be honorable, but I think they need to go by the Constitution, and they need to challenge their bosses. And we've seen it all on Facebook, y'all, about the officer saying to uphold the Constitution, and he got fired 3 days later. Hint, hint, hint. Go by the Constitution, and all your officers should go by the Constitution, but he gets fired. Hint, hint, hint. This is not complicated. Alrighty, we'll finish this out.
Of course, those criminals would be in jail using a taxpayer paid for library and cooking up a lawsuit against the policemen. So these policemen who are earning about $50,000 a year would have to buy like malpractice insurance, the liability insurance. Now, do you think they can afford to buy that? Doctors buy it. People are familiar with doctors buying it. But, Judge, your policeman would have to buy an insurance policy to protect themselves from having criminals sue them because they got arrested. So, the way Tim was
boom, because they got arrested. No, they got arrested for breaking the Constitution, causing harm to others. Alright? They need to go to jail when they cause harm to some others. That does not give them the okay to sue the police officers. Alright? So, I think it should be more discussions how to nitpick through the qualified immunity. But obviously, I don't think every officer should get sued when they operated in good behavior. So it's definitely something to discuss of. However, we definitely need to slap the qualified immunity on the table for all officials, people. Every one of them. Not just for police. For judges. I mean, some of you guys seen the videos out there. Causing harm on we the people because they think they got authority over us. Number one, quit believing they have authority over us. You have authority over them. Remember, we the people are the boss of the government. So how in the world do they have authority over us unless we've committed a crime? But until we commit that crime, they have no authority over us. Absolutely none. You have a right to property. But how do you own something if you pay taxes on it? Why do you think it's not in the first 10 amendments? That was passed later. I believe it's the 16th Amendment. It was not intended for that. It wasn't intended for us to have to pay taxes on our land because they knew that the government owned our land. And why do you think it took all the way to the 16th Amendment to actually have the tax passed? Sit and think about it, y'all. This is not what our country was tending to be. It's been added, 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 and added.
On this, I think, was just awful. And the Democrats would not even take a vote to discuss the bill. When police reforms, and you just talked to Jerron about the things that the president is wanting to do. And we're all saying there ought to be a national database for officers who've been decertified.
That's another thing. An officer database. No, 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 no. The federal government has too much power in our states as it is. If you think you have problems with your cops now, locally, wait until it goes into a federal thing. You would never get one fired. Ever. You think you corrupt town? Wait until the federal government, with all the money you give them, pays for, well, I mean, look at Hillary. You know, some of you guys may disagree or agree. I don't know. But look at the swampland out there. How people are just literally getting by with stuff. And you think the database of police officers is going to change anything? Anytime the federal government's involved, it gets worse, y'all. Do you think we have military police now? Wait until the federal government gets involved. They'd be technically all FBI agents then. And even then, FBI can't come into your county without the sheriff's permission. So yeah, let's not go with this federal government thing, period. Absolutely not. And the kind of funny thing is, on this issue itself, Democrats and Republicans kind of flipped. Democrats are acting more like Republicans, and Republicans more acting like Democrats. And just so you guys know, I'm not either one. I'm a Constitution person. I'll vote for either one of them within my Constitution. Proceed forward.
Ought to be standards for training. There ought to be these things, and they don't even want to have the discussion. I guess they're more given to mob rules and Marxist policies.
Senator, what do you say to people like Nancy Pelosi, who actually say that the Republicans are trying to get away with murder?
That is just reprehensible, and Tim mentioned that in his remarks on the floor. But to solve the problem, everyone knows that there has been what happened to George Floyd was just awful. His killing, his murder, and there should be justice for that. There should also be reforms for our law enforcement. But all of this talk about defund the police, abolish the...
Okay, on that behalf, y'all, and I hate to say this, because I want to have more hope for officers. But I'm telling you right here and now, it didn't matter if it was a white guy or a black guy. Police don't really care. They are trained that we, the people, are ignorant. Alright? So this is not a race issue. But what made this really famous was the simple fact it was filmed and got broadcasted out everywhere. This has happened to white people. A couple of times in California, a couple of times in Texas. This has already happened. And they got by with it. So this thing right here, this is nothing new about Floyd. It just drawed attention recently. Mexican people was killed this way. White people was killed this way. Black people has been killed this way. Alright? So this is not new. Everybody seemed to act like this is new, and it's not. It's been going on. This is the reason why we need to just the qualified immunity gone or stiffened. It would have to be a strict guideline be protected from. And the strict guideline, once again, is if you operate outside of the Constitution of the United States of America and the Constitution of the states, then you are liable to be sued and punished with time imprisonment, time of fines, basically a ticket, for harm that has been brought upon you. And if they want to buy insurance, that's fine and dandy. But if that's the job they take, then they should know it up front. If they want to clean up everybody quit and get a whole new set of officers because the rules has changed, that's fine too. But this is my opinion and nobody else's opinion. I appreciate you guys listening out there. I would absolutely vote on the Democratic side on this.
Police. We have to realize our police need more money, more training. They need to have our...
Speaking of training, y'all, there ain't no more training. They're training these people to act this way. That's the whole problem right there on top of everything else. They are trained that we are stupid. They are trained that they have authority over us. And it's the reason why it don't get nowhere when we say, hey, we're your boss. They're being trained. No, you're not. And they do not listen. I mean, for instance, this Floyd thing. The guy didn't listen to the person taping him because he was trained to think that that person was stupid and that he didn't know what he's talking about. So this funding for more training? No. They are trained to lie. They are trained that we're stupid and they're smart. And believe it or not, we are stupid because we listen to the crap. We put up with the crap after all these years. So yeah, I guess we are more stupid than they are. Again, let's go back to the Constitution. Let's get rid of the amendments or the qualified immunity.
Or support. It is that thin blue line that stands between calm and chaos. And I talk to...
Absolutely not. In most cases, if I challenge them, then they escalate. They get riled up first. Oh, wait a minute. According to what Constitution are you going by issuing this ticket? Well, it's a law. No, they escalate. We've seen videos out there with the protesters getting pepper sprayed and all that, while right on the other side of the street, rioters are destroying the building. And no, normally at the time, what do they do? People are filming, so they call up backup because they're fear of their safety. Yeah, right. They're not. They call backup to intimidate. That's the whole reason right there. It's not for protection, it's intimidation. They're not scared in most cases. It's intimidation. So that thin blue line, I honestly think she believes it because she don't live really in the real world. And some of y'all that's listening to this video don't live in the same world. Because you guys don't challenge the courts. You don't challenge the cops. Well, why should we? Because it's called freedom. That's why you should do it.
security moms across this great state of Tennessee every single week. And they tell me they want to see law and order in their communities. They want their communities to be safe. They do not want the local police department to be replaced with the social work department. And they know that if somebody breaks in their house, somebody trying to murder them, the social worker won't come.
All right. So number one, if somebody breaks in my house, I have my own protection. I can't wait until the cops get there. I got to protect my family before they get there, or during. But the government is the one that makes you more scared about pulling a trigger about somebody breaking in your house. That's their fault. That you are scared to protect yourself in your home. Tell me if that makes sense, y'all. Tell me that this makes sense, that we are convinced that we need to wait for the police officer. Just what she said. Just exactly what she said. As the community wants to make sure that they have the officers to come out and rescue me. We're banking on the cops way too much. We're banking on liars way too much. And we're banking on officers that don't even go by the Constitution. And judges way too much.
It's not going to work. Senator Blackburn, thanks so much for being with us tonight. And next, Corey Lewandowski is here. Don't go away.
All right. My opinion, y'all. We all have different opinions. If you want to send a like, great. If you don't, great. I appreciate you guys watching. Diesel for We the People News. Till next time, study your Bill of Rights. Study the Constitution. And understand law is foreign language of law. Legalese. Anything that says legalese is foreign. Alright. Till next time. Bye, y'all.